The holidays are supposed to be joyful, but for many, they are some of the hardest days of the year. I know this pain all too well. I've been in that dark place, and just recently, I lost someone close to me to depression and anxiety, and I want to talk about that today. My name is Craig Perra. I'm the founder of the Mindful Habit System, and for the past 12 years, I've been leading men to create and sustain healthy sexuality and great lives. Today, we're going to highlight the struggle of depression and anxiety during the holidays and why it's so important to address mental health openly. Just want to make an announcement. We're going to talk about suicide and suicidal ideations. I prefer announcements over trigger warnings, but take that as you wish. This is a deeply personal episode. To me, comes from my own journey, and I want to honor this recent loss that I experienced. So I want to talk a little bit about me, and I want to talk about the sense of hopelessness that I have felt and most recently have felt, despite there being no reason why I should be hopeless, being down, experiencing grief because of the loss of my friend, but hopeless, no. So I want to bring you back to my lowest point 14 years ago. Fired from my job, caught by my wife for acting out. At that low point, I tried to hurt myself. I ingested a pile full of synthetic stimulants, hoping my heart would explode. I was out of control with my sexual behavior, and I just wanted to end the pain. And it was dark. It was one of my lowest points. There have been a number of low points because the other thing that I've come to learn about myself is that the holidays were a time to act out. For me, the holidays, the added stress, anxiety, year-end baloney, all of it drove me insane. And so what would I do to escape from that insanity? I would act out. And the holidays, because of the increased celebration, disruption of my schedule, not taking care of myself, and because it was Christmas, I deserved a reward. I deserved a treat. So I'd often act out, sink into a low place, feel hopeless, have to numb, cope, and escape from those feelings. And we got to interrupt those patterns. And I want to give you some specific guidance today on how to address that. I also want to add a personal experience recently that prompted this episode. A week, maybe before Thanksgiving, a name and a face of someone who I haven't been in contact for a while popped up on my Facebook page. And I said, I've got to reach out to this person. I did not reach out to this person. And now they're gone. I got a message from his wife, I don't know, days later, a week later, that he took his life. I felt guilty. I felt sadness, helplessness, and that helplessness led to hopelessness. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. These experiences, as painful as they are, have taught me that there is always more that we can do to love, support, and lead ourselves and those around us. And that is absolutely critical during the holidays. I'm sorry to break it to some of you brothers, but you got underlying mental health issues. The greater the addiction, the greater the underlying mental health issues. I have not seen an exception to that rule in 12 years helping people. You add to that the holidays. And let's talk a little bit about the holidays. 90% of Americans report feeling stressed during the holidays. Surprise, surprise. 64% of individuals with mental illness experience a worsening of symptoms during the holidays. 71% of adults report increased anxiety during the holiday season. Half of Americans feel lonely during the holiday season. The National Institute on Drug Abuse reports that alcohol and drug use increases during the holidays. especially among individuals with pre-existing mental health conditions. Hello. And listen, you do not have to be diagnosed to have mental health conditions. They exist a spectrum. Suicide. While suicide rates are generally lower during the holidays, they increased among certain demographics, such as older adults, individuals with mental health disorders. Almost half of Americans experience sleep problems during the holidays, and a half of Americans worry about their finances during the holiday seasons. And this notion of this perfect holiday, this narrative of how it's supposed to be perfect and how it's supposed to be joyful, can amplify feelings of failure, of loneliness, of hopelessness, and that brings some of us to a dark place. When you talk about when you look at it from a parts work perspective, and those of you who have been listening to my podcast have heard me talk about this concept of parts work, which is not only an incredibly practically obvious model to create great results, self-leadership, and positive outcomes. It is supported by neuroscience. It's the foundation for the Pixar movie Inside Out. The concept is featured in the book No Bad Parts by Dr. Richard Schwartz, which I highly recommend. It'll change your perspective on psychology, because what you learn in that book is that all behavior is need-seeking behavior. My addict part that used to go crazy during the holidays, need-seeking behavior. Even the part that made me feel hopeless, and I'll talk about more in detail in another podcast, but even the part that depressed, the part that's hopeless, the part that's anxious, that's right from the Pixar movie Anxiety, the part that's fearful, all of these parts are trying to meet needs. And what is critical, you must learn this skill set. You must learn this skill set to listen to them instead of fighting them, because fighting them is not leadership. The goal that you're going for is self-leadership, leading these parts to healthy outcomes. Because guess what? Because some of you brothers listening to me right now have been in this game a long time in recovery, but you're still struggling. You're still struggling because you thought the triggers would go away. They don't. You thought that you wouldn't have these reactions anymore. You will. And we're going to talk about that. Before we get into that, I want to give you some tools and strategies. So here are some things that you can do during the holidays to make it better. And here's the thing about making it better. When you got mental health problems and you got these parts that feel hopeless, that feel lonely, that feel depressed, that are anxious, it is critical not to suppress them, because that which you resist persists. The pain doesn't get worse, doesn't get better, it gets worse. And you can experience the joy of connecting with people, the joy of receiving gifts, of giving gifts, although that childhood wounds there, that drives me crazy. It can coexist, right? You can have pain and discomfort and experience joy. It's not one or the other. We're trained to think binary. There's an evolutionary component to this or that, yes or no, fight or flight. But that's not reality. Right? Allow both to coexist. And here are some things specifically you can do to to lead the depressed, anxious, not good enough addict parts of you. 1, break the habit of isolation. Take one small action to connect. This is perfect timing. It's the holiday season. Call friends, text somebody, join a support group, right? These small incremental actions are critical. Small attainable goals are critical to create identity change. And they're easier. They're not easy because we're not natural connectors, are we? It's not natural for us to reach out. Our partners may be going to this event or going to that event, and we might go to the work thing. But are you connecting with friends, right? Critical, absolutely critical during the holidays. The second concept that I want to share with you is reinforce what I just said about self-leadership, right? Our parts don't go away. Our triggers don't go away. You are going to struggle. That's life. Self-leadership is leading, not pushing away the pain. It's holding space for these parts, getting curious about those reactions, and treating those wounds proactively. Right? The third thing that you can do, we're coming up on the new year. What can you do to operationalize your purpose? Okay. I'm going to do a whole nother podcast on operationalizing purpose. Quick footnote, you see a lot out there about chasing your purpose, living your purpose. Purpose is important. People who have purpose live better lives and live longer. Okay, I know what my purpose is. What do I do about it? But operationalizing purpose means weaving your purpose into the fabric of your reality. And you could do that very simply by gratitude journaling. Once a day for 60 seconds, write down 3 things that you're grateful for. You can operationalize your purpose by helping someone else. I'm a member of our local South Plaza Rotary Club. I love helping people. It's what I do. It feeds me. I love supporting my local community. You can post a quote that you see within your field of vision that inspires you. You can build a shrine in your bedroom that reminds you every day about some of the difficult experiences that you might have had as a child. You can have a statue of a flying pig, which is what I have over there. You can't see it, but someone early on, someone who was very successful, owned and sold 2 companies, told me that the chance of me launching a life coaching business was as good as a pig flying. So there's my pig over there. And that reminds me of the struggle and the challenges. And I did it. 12 years. We're coming up on 13 years in January, brothers. 13 years. There's the wolf over there too. You can't see that either. My purpose is reflected within my field of vision. The other thing that you can do is simple acts of self-care. You're not going to be perfect. There's no way you're going to be perfect during the holiday season, but what is one small trivial thing you can do to take better care of yourself? Before you go to bed, you could do a few burpees. You can do a few jumping jacks. And for you guys out there who are crushing already, wonderful. So think about what maybe you can do around mindfulness. Maybe you meditate for 60 seconds 3 times a day. You sit there, sit in the discomfort, and you count your breaths. Learning to sit in this discomfort is one of the most important things that you can do for yourself. And if you notice, the examples that I gave you were pretty small. Right? You don't need to do big things. That's the thing, right? Nothing I do is good enough. I'm always going to be a failure. It's so stupid for me to do this small thing. I have had 3 clients lose 100 pounds, starting with walking out to the driveway and walking back. And the reason why that was so effective, because in that ridiculously attainable goal, of course I can do that. I walk to the car every day. They don't know where their running shoes is, haven't put on a pair of shorts in a while, but that's attainable, right? But there was still hard. They still weren't able to do it every day because there's blocks. And so when you set those small goals, it magnifies those blocks and gives you an opportunity to address them versus complete failure. I'm going to run a mile a day. Great. If that's you, do it, but you have to ask yourself, is it attainable? If you're not doing it, it's not attainable. This is a capacity issue, brother. All of this is a capacity issue. If you would do it, you could, you can't. And these are some simple ways for you to create capacity. Here's something that I want to say that I realized recently, and it's very, very important that you hear this message. I think this is really the most important thing that I want to share during this podcast. Please, please, please take this to heart. All the work that you're doing on yourself, does not immunize you from, well, let me ask you, right? So let's say you're in recovery, you're working hard on yourself, you're going to your therapist, maybe you got years and years of sobriety, years and years of success. Does that work that you did on your brain and on your heart immunize you from future physical injuries? Of course not. That's a preposterous assertion. Of course it does not. Does it immunize you from future mental health issues? It does not. This work that you're doing does not immunize you from future mental health issues. It gives you tools to manage them better, right? That's what this is about, learning to manage them better. And yes, over time they get less frequent. Yes, over time they get less severe. But I promise you, you are going to experience a life event like losing a friend, financial challenges, work challenges, relationship challenges that you haven't yet experienced. And it's going to punch you in the face and you're going to feel like you haven't done a stitch of work on yourself. You are going to feel that way. I like to teach that you will feel hopeless. You will be stressed. You will be anxious. You will be depressed, and you will get triggered like you never have in your life. Like your worst trigger's ahead of you, not behind you. It's ahead of you. I don't care how much work you've done on yourself. I learn about his passing. I immediately pull the emergency brake. I tell Michelle, tell Tony, call my cousin Chris, call my friend Andy, immediately reach out. I was, in fact, very, very proud how just quickly I was able to reach out to people and share with them that I was really struggling. It was a powerful place for me, and I felt really blessed that I had those people that I could be safe with, that I could share, that I could be vulnerable with. It really, really was transformative, and I am very grateful to them. The other thing that I did, and here's a developmental milestone for all of you, and this is critical because that which you resist persists. There's essentially two components to any mental problem that you're having. Component one is being able to sit in the discomfort, being able to be present with the discomfort versus having to do something about it. I got to do my trigger response plan. I got to call somebody. I can do all these things. All those things are great. And those are the things what happens in the beginning. Those are the things what happen. That's level one. Level two is being able to sit in that discomfort as the observer and be mindful. Be in the present moment on purpose without judgment. And there was a time, not that long ago, past week, maybe two, where I was really down. Like I said, there's no reason to be hopeless. I'm the healthiest, happiest, more connected with Michelle, wonderful things happening in the community. No reason for it, except I experienced this loss. And I remember making a conscious effort to sit in that discomfort as the observer. And in that low point, I learned something very, very powerful. First, as I connected with the thoughts that I was having, and some of the thoughts were sexual triggers. And one of the thoughts that I had a new trigger, brothers. Here's the new trigger alert. I hadn't had this one before. At least I can't remember having this one before. If anyone heard me talk about it in a previous podcast, let me know. But I'm telling this to tell you, you're going to get triggered. And here's what my trigger was. Craig, here's what addicts said to me. Craig, we can get away with it. They'll forgive you. Your clients, your listeners, your family, they'll forgive you. Look at what you're going through, man. New trigger. So when I had that trigger, I made the choice to sit in the discomfort. And as I paid attention to the thoughts, the hopelessness with the sexual triggers to escape from the hopelessness, and I not just was the observer of my thoughts, I connected in that moment deeply into my body. It really, really felt like an emotional catharsis. If you've been in therapy and had one of those pow moments, the firework moments, that's what it felt like. And I said to myself, oh my God, this is exactly when I would have acted out. This is it. This is the holiday bender that I would go on. This would have precipitated it. This is exactly what I felt like. Oh my gosh. The second thing that happened was I was flooded with a wave of empathy and compassion for myself, reflecting on some of the challenges that I've had as a child, as an addict. Where I was of that discomfort, because I was so aware of that discomfort, I was saying to myself, oh my God, you poor bastard. This feels very uncomfortable. This is very dysregulated. I am so sorry that when you experience loss or pain or discomfort, you have these thoughts and you feel this way. And that connection has followed me. Feels like the past 7 days. It's like 7 to 10 days. I forget exactly. I get fuzzy on those dates. 6 concussions. But it's carried with me. I've been able to use that presence around the discomforts and fear, and none of the presents I get are going to be good enough. I've got 50 things to do. I've only done 3 of them. That overwhelm, that need to escape, that build, the resentment, the lack of control, the interruptions, the fun, the festivities. I've been able to be present with that discomfort in a way that I hadn't been able to before, and it has been very, very powerful. So that is a challenge for all of you. Obviously, if you're at level 1, you notice the trigger, you react, right? You do what you got to do. You got to do what you got to do to interrupt it. As you grow and as you're able to create some space, I invite you to do absolutely nothing. And doing absolutely nothing is going to be one of the hardest things that you've ever done. And it will also be one of the most rewarding, because that means you're able to sit in it, outreacting, strengthening that core, reinforcing the identity of someone who is in control, someone who has compassion for themselves, someone who loves themselves. Okay? Now, all that aside, if you are struggling, get help. Therapist, counselor, support group, online, friend, mindful habit. Get help. We got a program that's $99 a month. You can find it on the website, weekly webinar, all the training. So money should not be an option. 7-day free trial, 30-day money back guarantee, right? There's BetterHelp. There's lots of places for you to get support. Get help. You can't do it alone. There are too many blind spots. If you're struggling, you are not alone, and there is a path forward. These low points, the great thing about these low points is that they are opportunities, right? We know failure is an opportunity professionally. Well, guess what? Same rules apply personally. Small changes, those little things I mentioned before, can lead to profound transformation. And it is these small changes executed over extended periods of time that lead to identity change, who you are. And if you are really struggling, in the chat, in the description, I'm going to have some mental health resources that I invite you to reach out to. I beg you to reach out to if necessary. The holidays do not have to break you. They can be a time to rebuild and find strength that you did not know you had. In order to create a different outcome, you must do something different. Right? Depression, anxiety, bad habits, opportunities to grow when approached with love and intention. And I want to conclude. First, I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas. For my Jewish brothers and sisters, Happy Hanukkah. I want to leave you with this quote, one of my favorite quotes from a poem. It's called, "When is a monster not a monster? Oh, when you love it." When is a monster not a monster? Oh, when you love it. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for your time. It is a great privilege to serve I live a blessed life. Michelle and I are so honored to support people at their low points and support their long-term success. We're so excited for our retreat coming up in March. And we've got so many exciting things that we have in store for you coming up in 2025. And I want you to know that I am blessed, that I am honored. I promise you this, I will never take this seat for granted. It is truly a privilege to support you. Thank you so much for listening. Embrace your power of choice. Feed the right wolf. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. May your holidays be great. And thank you for listening. Have a great day.